and says, and indeed we know that what they say, it is only a human being who teaches him. The tongue of the man they refer to is foreign, while this is a speech, Arabiyyun Mubin, a pure clear Arabic. So it's irrational to say that it came from a non-Arab. Finally, could it come from Muhammad upon whom be peace? Well, maybe he was a genius, right? Well, let's discuss why it couldn't have come from Muhammad upon whom be peace. Number one, he was an Arab too. Logically speaking, if all the best Arabs failed, he was an Arab, then he couldn't produce anything like the Quran. Number two, after the initial accusation of the Arab linguists that he produced the Quran, they said it couldn't have come from him. It was taught by somebody else, it was magic, it was superior, it was from the spirit world, from the genies, right? Number three, the Quran is a literary masterpiece. This is without a doubt. It's a literary masterpiece. But all literary masterpieces coming from human beings are developed and changed with additions. Shakespeare, he worked on it, right? Homer's Iliad, he worked on his literary piece. But the Quran, as it was revealed, was unchanged, unedited, but remained a literary masterpiece, which is almost impossible psycholinguistically from a human perspective. Fourth point, look at the emotive psycholinguistic content. The Prophet Muhammad upon whom be peace suffered torture, abuse over 23 years. And yet none of that psychology is in the Quran itself. It remains in the divine voice. If you study psycholinguistics, you know a bit of Shakespeare is in Shakespeare. A bit of Homer is in Homer. You know that their characters are in the text, but the Quran remains in the divine voice. A great argument. The next point, number 5. In all human expressions, if the blueprint exists today, brothers and sisters, if the blueprint exists today, you can copy it. You can match it. Take, for example, famous artwork like Monet or Post-Impressionism or Van Gogh. We have amazing replicas that sell for thousands because they know the blueprint. They know the brushstrokes, the kind of style that it was used in. So if you have a blueprint, you should be able to emulate it. But the Quran is today alive and well with us, 1400 years on. The blueprint is there, but we can't use it to emulate it, which indicates that it can't come from a human being. Now, what's very interesting, that there was a linguistic study, an academic study called Author Discrimination Between the Holy Quran and the Prophet's Statements. So what the scholars did, they compared, and this is in the journal Literary and Linguistic Computing, volume 27, number 4, 2012. Now, basically what they did was they compared the Quran with the prophetic traditions in Sahih al-Bukhari. They compared the Quran with Sahih al-Bukhari, and they used various linguistic techniques to basically analyze the Quran compared to the statements of the Prophet Muhammad upon whom be peace. And look at some of the results. I'll just give you one piece of data that they found. And listen very carefully. 62% of the prophetic traditions of the hadith words are untraceable in the Quran, and 83% of the Quranic words are untraceable in the Prophet's words. From a linguistics, pragmatic perspective, this is impossible for any human being to achieve. Even if you're a rapper. The words you use in your day-to-day are going to be the words you use in any of your expression, whether it's poetry, prose, singing, rapping, mumbling, or the utterances you have when you have a hangover, yeah? The point is, regardless, you're going to use the same type of words. But 62% of the words in the prophetic traditions in Sahih al-Bukhari are not found in the Quran, and 83% of the words in the Quran are not found in Sahih al-Bukhari, the statements of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Finally, on my last minute, maybe he was a genius. It makes sense so far. It couldn't come from an Arab, couldn't come from a non-Arab, couldn't come from the Prophet Muhammad upon whom be peace, but maybe he was a genius, just like Shakespeare, or for many of you, Sheikh Zubur. Right? No, not funny? I think it's funny. Anyway, the laugh's on me. So Shakespeare, for example, yeah, he was a genius. I love Shakespeare, by the way. Shakespeare was great, but he wasn't unique. If you study Shakespeare, you see that he used a meter of English called the iambic pentameter, trochaic verse, and blank verse. Many other literateurs use this. Christopher Marlowe, right? Fletcher. I mean, even some English scholars, they say that Christopher Marlowe was actually the author of some of Shakespeare's works. He wasn't inimitable. He was great and a genius, but he wasn't inimitable. And he didn't have sustained eloquence. He had to edit and amend his work. But the Quran is sustained eloquence without addition, and it cannot be matched from a structural perspective. And that's amazing. So, God is the best explanation. It couldn't come from an Arab. It couldn't come from a non-Arab. It couldn't come from Muhammad upon whom be peace. Therefore, it came from God. I hope this has encouraged thought about the Quran being unique and special, and for you to be able to articulate its linguistic miracle, even if you don't know Arabic, using testimony, inference, saying couldn't come from an Arab, couldn't come from a non-Arab, couldn't come from Muhammad upon whom be peace. Therefore, it must have come from Allah. But don't forget the main message of the Quran, brothers and sisters, which is very simple. Don't be a slave to yourself. Don't be a slave to society. Don't be a slave to anything else, but be at service to the one that created you, and the one that knows you better than you know yourself, and the one that loves you more than your mother does. Great chilling with you. Assalamu alaikum.